Nigeria Police Special Protection Unit repositioned for effective service delivery.
Committee on Prerogative of Mercy considers over 300 applications for presidential pardon.
New APP provides options for conversion of petrol cars to gas in Nigeria.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the global oil outlook.
On Tuesday, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, released a report on the global oil outlook. It forecast an increase of 102.2 million barrels per day in 2045 from 90.6 million barrels per day in 2020.
Also, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, that's a group of countries that support free market and also pursue economic development as well as social policy, made a forecast that primary demand will constitute over 70% of global primary energy demand in the long term.
Now, the growth, the experts explain, is fueled by increasing populations and growing economies in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East.
Now, other factors contributing to this expected increase in demand include economic growth arising from structural changes and policy push that emphasize energy efficiency as well as development of low-carbon energy technologies after a recovery from the widespread impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Industry watchers predict that the price of crude oil would hit $90 per barrel in the next 3 months. Recall that recently there has been a leap in the demand as well as the prices of crude oil attributed to the margins in global supply-demand deficit.
Now, the experts also indicate that the margin is getting larger than expected as a result of shortages in the U.S., as well as the successful vaccination and initiatives against the coronavirus pandemic in most developing countries. Attention is also being drawn to a sharp rise in the use of oil fuels by international businesses and consumers.
And players in the commodity market, including Goldman Sachs, forecast high prices for crude oil by the end of the year, attributing this current rise to prices in other energy markets.
Now, industry watchers say that although the rise in demand and price of crude oil will positively affect Nigeria's funding capacity, it also implies additional petrol subsidy burden on the NNPC, that's the National Oil Corporation. And so far, Brent, that's the international benchmark for Nigeria's own crude oil, is at its highest since October 2018.
These developments inform our focus on the global oil outlook. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. We are reaching you live as usual on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA. I am Kyrian Umayo.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Kyrian to also welcome you to the program. As usual, we have our complimentary segments, and this includes newspaper review, business, and others. For now, here is our colleague Comfort Amodu with the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Comfort.
Good morning, Kingsley and Kyrian. Good morning, Nigeria. Here's the morning news. The ongoing reforms of the Nigerian police forces received a boost with the donation of its complex and barrack to the Police Special Protection Unit by the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. Inaugurating the project in Port Harcourt, President Muhammadu Buhari, represented by the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, reiterated the commitment of the government to the welfare of police officers in the country.
It is an important part of our government's efforts to improve the lives and livelihoods of our police officers and men, and is also another important milestone in my administration's pursuit of the peace, prosperity, and development of the Niger Delta.
In another development, the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, says social protection schemes can break the cycle of poverty, give real access to jobs, economic opportunities, and improve human capacity. The Vice President, during a United Nations high-level forum on jobs and social protection, which he attended virtually, gave instance of Nigerians' response to the fallouts of COVID-19, which he said was guided by the conviction that social protection schemes are crucial and can break the cycle of poverty, give real access to jobs and economic opportunities, and improve human capacity productivity. He added that the economic sustainability plan of the federal government is aimed at restoring growth by reducing the macroeconomic shocks, tackling the health challenges, averting business closure, creating jobs. The Senate has urged the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, as a matter of emergency, to expedite works on the repairs of damaged portions of roads across the country. Legislative intervention on road infrastructure across the country led proceeding at Senate plenary.
Intervention fund for the critical roads in Niger State to the tune of 300 billion to concurrently fix the roads as part of the infrastructure rehabilitation efforts of the government.
Just from Okene to Lokoja, the road is very unmotorable.
And the House of Representatives has approved the federal government's 3-year fiscal projection for 2022 to 2024, otherwise called Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Strategy Paper. At Tuesday plenary, the House approved the removal of some agencies of government from the national budget.
Many agencies of the government demonstrate capacity to stand on their own without depending on federal government budget, thereby depleting the optimal usage of national resources. For example, NAFDAC and Nigerian College of Aviation Technology in Zaria.
I think a lot of these things, shortfall in revenue, MDAs relying on operating capital and all of that by law, I think these things can be cured by legislation.
In other news, INEC has renewed its 2019 Memorandum of Understanding with transport owners to deliver election materials. This was during a meeting in Abuja.
Bottom line is that we must ensure that we improve the implementation of this MOU. We will be able to open our polling units at 8 o'clock on election day.
Anywhere, we are ready. We have representatives all over Nigeria, so wherever there is election, we can be able to provide the logistics, transportation logistics needed to any election in Nigeria.
The Presidential Advisory Committee on the Prerogative of Mercy has commenced the consideration of 320 applications for pardon and clemency for onward transmission to President Muhammadu Buhari. Minister of Justice, who addressed the reconvened body, called for objectivity in the consideration of the applications.
The core mandate of the committee is that of assisting Mr. President in the discharge of the constitutional responsibility of granting pardon and clemency to convicts or ex-convicts in deserving cases and reintegrating them back into the society.
Vehicle owners willing to convert from petrol to gas can now do so through an auto gas app launched by the National Automotive Design and Development Council. The app is to provide information on certified conversion centers, vendors, or technicians.
The Council has trained so far over 20,000 technicians in the industry. The Council has also concluded plans to develop the NOS, the National Occupational Standards, for the conversion of fuel-powered cars from petrol to gas.
The use of auto gas is one of the sure ways of reducing the emission from petrol to diesel.
And in health, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control has confirmed 295 new cases of COVID-19 in the country. Latest figures released bring the total number of confirmed cases to 205,047 infections in the country. A breakdown of the new cases indicates the FCT recorded the highest number for the day. With 81 new infections, Gombe State recorded 43 cases, Osun with 32, Kaduna 25, Rivers 20, Delta 17, Edo 14, Ogun 11, Oyo and Plateau with 9 cases, Akwa Ibom and Bayelsa with 7 cases, Zamfara 6, Kano 4 cases, Ondo 3, Abia and Nasarawa 2 cases, while Benue, Ekiti and Niger State recorded a single case each. With the latest development, Nigeria now has 205,047 confirmed cases of COVID-19, out of which 193,260 were treated and discharged, while 2,695 persons have died from the virus. And that concludes the news at this time. Do stay tuned for the program with Kingsley and Kieran right after the break.
Trying our best to contain the situation. In our operations, we've been able to make a lot of recoveries. We've been able to also arrest suspects that are involved in this kind of activities. And we've been able to also recover, particularly arms and ammunition from those who are carrying it unlawfully and disturbing the peace of the people. But generally, our morale in the Nigerian police is always guided by our commitment to do what we have sworn to do. Peace and security must be looked into as a priority by all, to look at security as the business of all of us.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Give your kids winning energy. Milo Active Go. With the goodness of malts, milk, and cocoa, helps them make the most of every day. Milo, the energy to go further.
Welcomes you back to school. Have a session filled with lots of fun and excitement. Stay safe, stay healthy. Indomie noodles, tasty nutrition, good for you.
Chelsea will look to bounce back from their loss against the defending champions when they take on Southampton at Stamford Bridge. Will they succeed? Find out this Saturday on the Premier League Live. It's Chelsea versus Southampton, showing on the network service of the NTA from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu, empowered by Integral.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Thanks for staying with us. And next is business news. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria says credit to private sector rose by 498.6 billion naira in August to 33.26 trillion naira from 32.8 trillion naira, reported in July 2021. Details of this and more with Alika Opanachi Aroa.
The 33.36 trillion naira figure announced by the CBN is a new record that was fueled by banks, among others, increased lending to real sector. CBN, in its money and credit statistics for the period, revealed that credit to private sector in January was 30.65 trillion naira and dropped by 0.47% to 30.5 trillion naira in February. However, in March, it closed at 31.44 trillion naira and crossed the 32.1 trillion naira mark in April to 32.12 trillion naira. In addition, the CBN reported 32.63 trillion naira and 33.36 trillion naira credit to private sector in May and June. Meanwhile, Nigeria is set to boost its volume of trade with Russia, which was $600 million before the pandemic. With faster recovery in sight, the Nigerian-Russia Chamber of Commerce is strategizing on expanding trade engagement through technological advancement in industry, agriculture, and manufacturing.
We created big companies that are producing high-quality products on the world level, from high-tech to fertilizer.
Nigeria can actually be a big window of Russia into Africa. We are prepared to play that role. We've gotten all the necessary assurances from the government in the person of the Vice President of Nigeria.
With business news, Alika Opanachi Arwa.
Thank you very much, Alika, there for the business package, and good morning, Nigeria. Coming up next for us now is Newspaper Review.
And here we have a newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atayebi, with us here in the studio. Bayo, it's good to see you.
Thank you, Kirian. Good morning. Good morning, Kinsley.
All right, Bayo,
good morning, Nigeria.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Okay, let's kick start with the Punch newspaper. The Punch newspaper, above the nameplate, Nexim votes 36 billion naira for SMEs export business in 36 states. The story is captured in details on page 30. Northern governors under fire over silence as Kaduna death toll hits 51. There are two riders to that. Instead of addressing banditry, governors busy strategizing on retaining power, as according to Ohaneze. How would governors meet in Kaduna and silent on killing of 48 people, says Sokepo. The story is on pages 3 and 8. Petrol landing costs now 278, says Moran crude reaches $80 per barrel. That's petrol landing costs now 278 naira, says Moran crude reaches 80,000 barrels, $80,000 per barrel rather. That's on page 29. Now, below the nameplate of the Punch newspaper, we have the lead story. Federal government releases fresh debtors list. November, 77 oil firms owe 2.66 trillion naira. That's on page 30. There are two others to that story. So firms fail to remit petroleum profit tax, income tax, and education tax, plus, of course, VAT. We are partnering EFCC NFIU to recover 2.6 trillion naira from oil firms, says the agency. All right, now the photo story on the Punch newspaper actually depicts what happened yesterday during a clash with soldiers, the shared clash with soldiers and police in Abuja. It was alleged that 8 members were killed. That's on page 8 of the Punch newspaper. Shares clash with soldiers, police in Abuja. All right, below that we have FCT notorious kidnapper gunned down, 7 captors rescued. It's on page 43. Herdsmen kill 11 in fresh Benue Plateau attacks. The story on pages 7 and 12. Kogi Varsity Dean's abductors demand 20 million naira. Wife bursts into tears. That's on page 12. Develop Ondo Seaport, decongest Apapa gridlock. Akredolu tells federal government. It's on page 43. Police comb waterways. Others to free abducted retired general in Lagos. That's Smith. It's on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. Now, restructuring, only solution must be done before 2023. Fanny Ferry insists. It's on page 43 of the Punch newspaper by Kinsley.
Kieran, thanks a lot there. Let's also take a look at the window page of the Nation newspaper, beginning from the headlines above the name flag. Daughter speaks on police chief slain by Lagos mob. That's on page 3. Benue traditional rulers condemn attacks on Tiv. Otom laments killings. That's the writer to that headline. Gombe recovers 77.3 million naira from 901 ghost workers. Supreme Court Justice Oseji dies at 67. And then below the name flag, CBN places 1 million naira limit on e-naira single transaction. And the lead story there comes with a double-decker headline. It says, North elders to governors negotiate 2023 power shift. And with the rider, more knocks for North governors from MBF, that's Middle Belt Forum, Ohaneze, Afere, and lawyers. More cracks in PDP over zoning. That's the other headline there, just below, beside the photograph. The caption for that photograph says, Shiites and police in Abuja, bloody clash. That's on page 5. Death toll in Kaduna village attack now 45. And cholera kills 57 in 1 week. Bayo.
Thank you, Kinsley. Let's start with the report about police reform. The federal government says its major reform of the Nigerian police is to increase the numerical strength and also equipment for that police force. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo stressed that the provision of accommodation for men and women of the service is a very important feature. He was representing the president at Omagwa in Port Harcourt, where the commissioning of the project awarded in 2012 and completed by the NNDC was commissioned. The project was described as important because apart from achieving accommodation challenges for personnel, it will ultimately also enhance footprint of security in the Niger Delta region. The Minister for Niger Delta Affairs identified that there are 13,777 abandoned projects in the 9 states of the Niger Delta region. Senator Gospel Akpabio says that those that will benefit the people will be selected for completion. Governor Nyesom Wike, while commending NNDC for completing the project, indicated that for some time ago he was contemplating taking over the project because, having been abandoned for long, it was a haven for criminals. Members of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, otherwise known as Shiite, yesterday clashed with security agents between Gwarimpa Gate and the area near Galadimawa along the Kubwa Expressway. The police says that 57 suspects, comprising 39 males and 18 females, were arrested and are being profiled by the Federal Capital Territory Criminal Investigation Department. The police say that they recovered a gov vehicle, flags, petrol bombs, weapons, mobile phones, and other charms from the persons. The Shiite also claimed that they had embarked on their annual ritual Arba'in trek. A spokesman for the group, Abdullah Musa, claimed that 8 persons were killed. The police has denied this, and the spokesperson, Josephine Ape, says that petrol bombs were thrown at security agents. A resident in Gwarimpa told The Punch that the procession blocked the road and no vehicle could move. This led to heavy traffic in the area until police and soldiers came around to send them away. The other story relates to the economy. 77 oil firms and gas companies owe the federal government 2.6 trillion naira. The Executive Secretary of Nigeria Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, Dr. Orji Ogbonaya Orji, says that the debt arose from failure to remit petroleum profit tax, company income tax, as well as education tax. Other taxes that were not remitted include value-added tax, withholding tax, royalty, and concession on rentals. Dr. Ogbonaya Orji was speaking on the state of Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative implementation in Nigeria. The report is based on findings from 2019 audit of oil and gas companies that have operations across Nigeria. They have not even touched about 2020 as yet. The physical amount was $6.48 billion, which using the equivalent of 410 naira 35 kobo to a dollar translated to 2.66 trillion naira. That's a lot of money. If it came out into the coffers, it will go a long way in helping capital projects. Another story about the economy is coming from a report by the budget. Budget report says that 3 states, Lagos, Rivers, and Anambra, have been identified as the only ones that can survive without support from the federal government. This was revealed by the report of the fiscal option for building back Nigeria released by the budget yesterday. The 3 states, the report indicated, can meet operational expenses with combination of internally generated revenue and value-added tax measures. The report also indicated that the bottom 3 that probably could not are Benue, Taraba, and Bayelsa. It also indicated that of all the 36 states of the Federation, there's 3.43% decline in the internally generated revenue for the year between the year 2019 and 2020. The report identifies states with the highest foreign debts. These are Lagos, Kaduna, Edo, Cross River, and Bauchi State. The only 5 states, according to the report, prioritizes investment in infrastructure by spending more on capital projects than operational costs. These are Ebonyi, Rivers, Anambra, Cross River, and Kaduna. The ones that are having higher operational costs than capital expenditure are Benue, Kogi, and Taraba.
Okay, well, Bayo, there's a story that is not on the front page of the papers that we have read. And it has to do with the story. I saw the story online yesterday along with the photos, and it's coming from Kwara. That this week, the Kwara state government demolished a public library named after Olusola Saraki. That's the father of Bukola Saraki, former Senate president. I'm less concerned about the politics of it, whether they're having issues or otherwise. My concern is with the public library. Now, before proceeding to demolish that public library, I wouldn't know how many new public libraries the Kwara state government has built, or whether a public library is even under construction in that state. The same question you can ask in most other states of the Federation, including the Federal Capital Territory. Where are our public libraries? And even where those public libraries exist, are they functional? Some years ago, I went to a library here in Area 2 in the Federal Capital Territory. The hostility on the faces of the staff was a clear indication that I shouldn't be there in the first instance. That I should rather be going to be looking for contracts and be asking them questions about how I can have access to some resources. We keep talking about youth empowerment, giving people keke napep and so on and so forth. Where are those public libraries where they could go sit in, even adults?
In recent years, really, in recent years, there has been a downtrend in terms of library development, right? I happen to be privileged, to anchor one of the programs of librarians, where they normally induct librarians, and we discussed that extensively as to why the decline in terms of developing libraries in the country. Is it because we're now having online publications and what have you, and the people don't take interest anymore in going to libraries to sit and read or carry out research? Most people now rely on online publications, books and what have you, to of course, to carry out research and so on. So perhaps that may be part of the reasons. But again,
yes.
as Kingsley pointed out,
Yes.
it behoves on the government to realize the importance of library, especially at this point in time when Kingsley now just raised the issue of youth empowerment and what have you.
You see, there's a general decline in the reading culture, and that is actually undermining people's usage of library. But it's not justification to demolish a library. In the library that was demolished in Kwara, another side to the report was indicating that the library had been abandoned and it was demolished for reconstruction. Be that as it may, whether it is political or not, a library is an asset for society. I don't think it should be subjected to that kind of humiliation. But the danger here is that sometimes people say that the advent of social media is very good, but one of the consequences is that it's killing the reading culture. And a lot more. Look, there were people who could not afford to buy newspapers. They walk into the libraries to read newspapers. Now, they are reluctant to go because they can read all these newspapers on their phones.
That's true. That's true. I agree. Akpabio, Godswill Akpabio, when he was governor of Akwa Ibom, built an e-library at Uyo.
Yes.
And Uyo has also proceeded with setting up a book club. A book club, part of the ways of seeking to encourage the reading culture. During his first tenure, Lucky Igbeneghu, as governor of Edo State, also built a modern, an ultra-modern library on Sapele Road. I think he also had e-facilities therein. The truth is that, yes, access to e-sources has tended, to make people rather lazy, but there are collections you will still find in the library that you cannot find in e-sources. I mean, let's give the ultimate example. If you go to the Library of Congress, Kyria, in Washington, D.C., whether it's a virtual tour or otherwise, there are sources therein that you cannot find online. I mean, a library is not just a place for books and so on and so forth. At the Library of Congress, for instance, you will see ancient maps.
Are we stocking books? Are we stocking such information in a library? That's a big question to ask. Yeah. Because if you're not stocking those things in the library, what are you going there to find? If a library, for instance, the one in Kwara, was abandoned for a very long time by previous
why abandon it?
That is the point that we are making.
Why abandon it? And then there are rules. I mean, the librarians will tell you there are ways for acquiring collections. There are also donations. But everybody will just sit down, fold their arms, and say youth empowerment. Give them Okada. Then the next thing they use Okada and give to bandits.
Now, in concluding this segment of our conversation, UEFA Championship, rolled out yesterday, right? And many clubs, lost, especially Madrid, lost to an unknown club, virtually Sheriff.
Well, that is what I find exciting about football. When there is what is described as an offset, that's what makes football interesting.
Big time. It was a last-minute goal. It was a last-minute goal. First loss in the round-robin stage, no question about that. But the most excitement, came from the match PSG and Man City. That was almost like a quality final. Exactly. And for the first time, Lionel Messi scored a wonderful goal. I mean, the attraction for me in that match was to see how both teams, engaged each other, and to see the trio of Lionel Messi, Neymar Jr. and Mbappe. Fantastic combination. Exactly. I think they will always be a threat to all other teams. It probably could be their year since PSG has been in deep hunger, as it were, for a UEFA championship. Real Madrid, 13-time champions, had the misfortune yesterday of losing that. But it was 1-1 after it became 1-1 after Karim Benzema, the creative striker, equalized through a penalty.
I like football because it's unpredictable. No matter how creative you are, at some point,
No. There are times it's predictable. It can be predictable. It's not. If you meet a minion, you can overrun them. This is not a surprise, by the way. Don't forget, Ajax also sprung a surprise 1 year against the same Real Madrid. Exactly. So it's a matter of going back to the drawing board, and the real masters, will come out because of
So let's conclude the segment and appreciate Bayo Tebi for his wonderful review this morning.
I enjoyed this football commentary.
Yes, we hope to see you again tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
All right. Good Morning Nigeria is on the network service of the NTA. We are taking a short break now. When we come back, we shall be focusing our attention on the global oil, outlook. Don't go away.
Federal government through NPHCDA commenced phase 2 vaccination of all persons 18 years and above with safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines approved by WHO and certified by NAFDAC. Special arrangement has been made for staff, their dependents and retirees of ministries, departments and agencies of government, private corporate organizations and non-governmental organizations. To benefit from this special arrangement, visit www.nphcda.gov.ng/corporate vaccination/ to obtain, fill and submit the Google form. NPHCDA will contact you within 48 hours. Protect yourself, your family and your workplace against COVID-19. COVID-19 vaccines are free, safe and effective. For further inquiries, call 0700-220-1122 or send a mail to covid19.vaccination@nphcda.gov.ng. This message is from the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency.
Give your kids winning energy. Milo Active Go. With the goodness of malt, milk, and cocoa, helps them make the most of every day. Milo, the energy to go further.
When times are tough, we know that as a mother, one thing you should never compromise on is your family's oral health, because they deserve the best. Oral-B, all-round protection. Its great value, it protects your mouth from harmful bacteria and also protects you against tooth holes and gum problems which can lead to tooth loss. It strengthens your family's teeth and gives them all-round protection. So remember, protect their future. Oral-B for healthier, stronger teeth in just 1 week.
I dey enjoy Nollywood film. Orisun, PBO, AMC be my best channel. But ST Nollywood Plus, they show the latest Nollywood blockbuster on top classic bouquet. How I want to watch am?
My pikin dey enjoy 5 children's channels. But it won't come add DreamWorks on top am.
I be telenovela lover and I like ST Novella E and Starlight. But I hear say the series on ST Novella E Plus on top classic bouquet, the totori person pass wetin I dey see now. And I won't watch am. Shey I go need pay 800 naira extra?
From September 1, Star Times, they summer you better package. But no fear, we no increase price. Join this offer. Make basic bouquet subscribers just pay for 1 month and then go fit to watch 3 ogbonge extra channels from Classic Bouquet. This awoof never finish. Recharge Classic or Super Bouquet for 1 month and you fit be one of the 400 lucky people them. We go win smartphone. Terms and conditions, they shall. More value, same price. Star Times, enjoy digital life.
He's falling sick so frequently, either fever or stomachache. I keep him away from junk food.
She also feeds me apples. She says an apple a day keeps...
If you want to keep germs away, then also wash your hands regularly with Dettol soap.
Meaning?
Germs and disease spread through the hand also. For this, use Dettol soap. Dettol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Dettol soap is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Be Dettol sure.
Give your kids winning energy. Milo Active Go. With the goodness of malt, milk, and cocoa, helps them make the most of every day. Milo, the energy to go further.
Chelsea will look to bounce back from their loss against the defending champions when they take on Southampton at Stamford Bridge. Will they succeed? Find out this Saturday on the Premier League Live. It's Chelsea versus Southampton, showing on the network service of the NTA from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu, empowered by Integral.
Thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria. As a prompt for our conversation segment, which is on global oil outlook, let's take this excerpt of the unveiling of the World Oil Outlook by OPEC Secretary General Mohamed Barakindo.
What is clear is that the world will need more energy in the decades to come. In the period to 2045, the global economy is estimated to more than double. World population is set to expand to 9.5 billion people. And we need to remember that there is huge potential for socio-economic development in terms of expanding access to to modern energy services for those billions who continue to go without. We see global energy demand expanding by 28% by 2045. Energy will be needed to power more homes, more services, more businesses, more cars, more planes, more ships. I could go on and on and on. This will require the use of all forms of energy to support the post-pandemic recovery, the energy transition, and address long-term energy needs. We need to draw on the strength of all energy forms. From a regional perspective, we see a continuing energy demand growth trend toward the non-OECD, with its share expected to rise from 63% to 71% by 2045. In fact, the entire growth in energy demand is expected to come from the non-OECD. Renewables witnessed the largest growth, rising from a global fuel share of around 2% in 2020 to over 10% by 2045. It is important to note that OPEC member countries are making significant investment in renewables as they look to diversify their energy mix. Gas sees the second largest growth, driven in part by higher urbanization rates, industrial demand, and its competitiveness over coal in power generation. In fact, all energies are set to witness growth with the exception of coal. It is oil, however, that retains its number one position in the global energy mix. It is still expected to provide 28% of global energy needs by 2045. Given the huge 9.3 million barrels a day drop in global oil demand in 2020, incremental demand by 2026 is almost 14 million barrels a day higher than in 2020, albeit only 4.4 million barrels a day higher than in 2019. Long-term oil demand growth slows over the outlook period, and total demand reaches just over 108 million barrels a day by 2045. Following the energy trend, it is the non-OECD that dominates oil demand growth, led by India, China, other Asian countries, OPEC, and Africa. The OECD sees a steady decline from around the mid-20s onwards. By sector, transportation leads the way, followed by aviation and petrochemicals, while electricity generation is the only area expected to see an oil demand decline. While travel and mobility restrictions due to the pandemic hit the transportation sector hard, particularly aviation, the long-term picture remains one of the robust growth. There remains huge potential for an expansion in the passenger and commercial vehicle fleets, especially in developing regions.
Well, that background was taken from the Global Oil Outlook report presented by the OPEC Secretary General, Mohammed Sanusi Bakendo. Now we have guests to discuss matters arising from that report and other related issues. Let's welcome to our studios this morning, again, Dr. Timothy Okon, who's a petroleum economist and managing partner, Tenno Energy Resources. Dr. Tim Okon, delighted to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much for having me.
And also with us in this conversation, this time joining us from our Lagos Network Center, is Odion Omofoma. He's an energy expert. Odion, delighted to have you this morning.
Thank you once again, and good morning, Nigerians.
All right, and via Zoom from Ghana is Professor Wumi Iledere, Professor Emeritus in Petroleum Economics, Center for Energy Studies, Louisiana State University, and Executive Director, Emmanuel Bohan Foundation for Petroleum Economics, Policy Advocacy and Research, Abuja. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Good morning to my friend Dr. Okon as well.
Also from Awari via Zoom is Engineer Alex Nain. He's the MD CEO, Gakmok Nigeria Limited, an ex-Chevron management staff and former African Regional Director, SPE International, and honorary member of SPE. It is glad to have you with us this morning on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Good morning. It's a pleasure being with all these guys I'm seeing on the screen for a very long time. Okon, Wumi, and several others. Good morning to everybody.
All right, gentlemen, our pleasure to have you all with us as we discuss the global oil outlook. Of course, we do know that the outlook will have policy implications. It will also have investment implications. But let's begin with Dr. Tim Okon for the benefit of our viewers who are not oil experts. What does this global oil outlook mean? And in indicating what it means, what are those key points that we should flag at this stage?
Thank you very much. I think the important information to be garnered from the OPEC perspective, which is broadly consistent with a position that most other observers hold, is really threefold. The first is that we are not out of oil. And the message is that non-OECD countries, and what does non-OECD, the Organization for Economic, or non-developed countries, those who are developing, require oil in their economies. So there is no need for panic per se, but we need to recognize that for the OECD countries, oil demand will go down. That's an important message. Secondly, you did speak about gas, and you know Nigeria has been shifting its focus now on gas, but focus on gas in the three key areas. You talk about petrochemicals, you also talk about gas conversion industries, etc. Then there is a third, which is the transportation sector. Post-pandemic, which is really the huge slump, was that in a lockdown situation, nobody was going anywhere. So he mentions aviation, for example, growth in aviation. That will come back, and some of the details in the forecast include a potential 4.2 million barrel a day increase in 2022. And what that implies is that some of the shut-in production of 9.5 million would actually now come back into play. So the final implication would be simply that if demand picks up, etc., prices are likely to hold. And when prices hold, the challenge now is that how do you invest to bring production? And the additional message I would like to point out is that we still need, he mentions all energy sources, and some of the crises you have in Europe, there has to do with the failure to recognize some of these dynamics in which you look at all the energy sources that are available to power an economy. Beyond the rhetorics about energy transition, reality is dawning on a lot of people that fundamentally you still need fossil fuels to power the world economy, especially non-OECD countries.
All right. Now, let's go over to Professor Wumi Eladere, who is reaching us via Zoom from Ghana. I take it that you also listened to the OPEC Secretary General, reel out, the outlook of oil. He made one indication that all energy sources have actually increased in terms of growth, but yet that oil still maintains its lead. Let's get your take on the general outlook as he presented. All right, we seem to be having glitches with that signal. We'll likely return to Ghana to see if we can get through to Professor Iladore make his opening comments. But for now, let's go to Odion Omofoman, who is an energy expert in our Lagos studios. Odion, I just asked a question with respect to the fact that other energy sources have grown, according to the OPEC General Secretary or Secretary General, and I want to get your own take with respect to what he read out. And again, oil remains central, with respect to provision of energy globally. What do you make of, the information he just delivered to the world on Tuesday?
Thanks very much. My take on the report in general is that oil still maintains its dominant position amongst the various fuel types, and we have a couple of fuel types. We have the oil, we have natural gas, we have the nuclear energy, renewables, and even the hydros. So it's interesting to note that despite like Dr. Okun said, the rhetorics on energy transition, oil is projected to still be the dominant fuel type for till 2045 and beyond. But that is not to say that there is no transition happening. And I think if you looked at the OECD countries, their share of renewable energy will grow from 2-point-something% to about 10. Then in terms of other energy types, gas also will increase. Luckily, Nigeria is now focused on developing our gas resources. The minister and other NNPC personnel have always stated that Nigeria is a gas country, not necessarily an oil country. So we see the NNPC in the right direction, focusing on the development of gas, and that is good for our energy use. But long and short, what the report points out to is that there will be growing, energy demand is growing. Energy demand will have to be met by a mix of oil, fossil fuels, and non-fossil fuels. And for the projected future, up to 2045, oil will still remain the dominant fuel type, even though its share of the percentage share of amongst fuels would reduce, but just a marginal reduction. What does that mean for us here in Nigeria? Should we still be focusing on oil exploration within Nigeria, or we should now maximize transition into gas? I think that's something that maybe as we progress in the conversation, we'll have that discussion. But I think we're on the right track in terms of trying to develop our gas resources, utilizing more gas. But oil still remains, from OPEC's perspective, the dominant fuel type that isn't going away anytime soon.
All right. Thank you very much, Odion Omofoman. We will return to you later on in the course of the conversation. Let's check out Professor Wumi Iladore again and see if his audio glitch has been cleared up now. Professor Wumi Iladore, we couldn't hear you earlier after my colleague Kirian posed his first question to you. But let's just begin by asking you what your view is in general with respect to the global oil outlook presented by the OPEC Secretary General.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me now. Let me know. But I think if you look at the outlook, there are assumptions that are embedded in it. And there are three assumptions, basically, when you look at world oil outlook. It begins with population growth. And then the second thing is industrialization. And then the third thing is climate change. And the climate change aspect is what OPEC tried to emphasize, the assumption of electric vehicles. Now, if you look at the reduction in oil demand from the OECD point of view, it is tied onto transportation using electricity. And OPEC's assumption is very valid. You are looking at 2.6 billion vehicles on the road, and they are thinking in terms of 460 million electric vehicles. These are assumptions that have stochastic implications. And then, so that's from the demand aspect. And that's why you saw the reduction in OECD demand for oil. It is tied to basically being able to replace transportation vehicles, fossil fuel vehicles with electric vehicles. Technology adoption is not as easy. So I don't see a situation in which the focus of OPEC will be less than what they have. I actually foresee a possibility of needing almost 110 million barrels of oil per day. OPEC currently estimated it to be about 109 million barrels per day, because the assumptions are not necessarily as realistic as the OECD people want to believe. Now, when you look at industrialization and population, and if you look at what they're actually trying to replace is electricity generation with fossil fuel. Oil is not a participant in that. If you go to China, it's a small fraction of oil that is used for electricity generation. So what you are looking at is concentrating on transportation. And I see a focus from OPEC in which we're still going to, the outlook for supply, we still have oil over 50 to 53% of global energy need. Because where oil would be required is where the population centers are in the world. So I don't see any panic with respect to the relevance of oil going forward. Because most of the assumptions that you are going to displace oil in transportation are, in my opinion, and according to others, is just dream, not reality. Technology cannot just be transformed easily the way people are looking at it. And just in closing remarks so that others could speak. In 2005, the world was thinking that oil will not be necessary because of what they call carbon fabric. The composite material will replace oil going forward. This is 2021, and oil supply is still accounting for over 54% of global energy need. And fossil fuel together is accounting for almost 81% of global energy need. That is 15 years ago's prediction. So let us fasten our seatbelt. Yes, the energy transition is here to stay, but I don't see any much dent in global oil requirement by 2050. I still think it's more of a dream than reality. But hey, time will tell.
All right, time will tell, and my take away from what you just enunciated is that there's no panic in terms of the relevance of oil in the entire energy mix. All right, thank you. Let's get to Engineer Alex Lane, MD, Gamcock Nigeria Limited. Let's get your own perspective, of this presentation by OPEC, because, of course, a number of points have also been raised by the previous speakers, to that effect. What's your view? Do we have a panic, or do we think that in the course of between now and 2045, that nothing will happen that will make oil to some extent irrelevant in the entire energy mix?
For this opportunity, it is like a game that is going on. As students way back 74, 75, we were told in 50 years' time, the oil will not be relevant, it will finish, dry up, and all that. All this, they're all gone. So we're in a different stage. My concern about what OPEC is presenting is showing us that in Nigeria, we still have hope. So I will concentrate more on how we develop our oil and gas to be able to build our future beyond what we are seeing now. There's still ample chance for us to do that because, like Professor Ledari said, he looks at it as not being real. Yes, it's not being real, but you must be prepared. So we know definitely all efforts have been put into renewable and to eliminate the usage of oil and gas, but it's still going to be here with us for a very, very long time because the alternatives that are coming up, they're good, but it cannot wipe out the demand for oil. Look at what has happened. We went down to about $22 a barrel. Now we are facing 70-something going to 80, and it will still go up. So my own concern as a Nigerian is how do we harness this situation now? Because what OPEC is presenting is good news for us. And I think there are better future beyond what OPEC is presenting based on known facts and knowledge. So I think it will give us an opportunity to re-engineer our industry here and see how we can use this opportunity to build the Nigerian we are looking up to. And I think there's hope. People should not give up. Our universities everywhere, they should all keep cranking to come up with ideas whereby we fully indigenize the industry so that we can get all the full benefits that goes with it rather than letting it go outside. We refine, we sell, we export, and let us use it as a big opportunity to boom. We've lost some period already, but I think this is another opportunity beyond the expectation of most people. All the gamings of 1974, 75, 40 years oil, we finished, we're still here, we're still finding more oil, and we're still going to find more oil. And that oil is going to be used, must be used. So I'm appealing to the federal government to go back to the drawing board with this opportunity still there. Let us do a thorough job of this industry and we'll be fine. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Engineer Alex Neni. We will return to you in the course of the conversation. Now, back to our studios here in Abuja. Dr. Tim Okon, let's try one more time to domesticate the whole issues around the global oil outlook. Now, this is energy forecasting. And some would say that it's an open source intelligence, not just for the world, but for member countries of OPEC. Usually for us as an oil producing country, have we always latched onto the whole idea of energy forecasting to enable that, drive our operations, drive our ideas, and so on and so forth? I'm asking this question against the background of your many years, in the
I would say this is really the time to manage transition. While there is no need for panic, but we must understand what is happening elsewhere. So for the OECD countries, if you're going to have from a 2% to a 10% increase in renewables, and particularly you are dealing with transportation, electric vehicles, and I presented a paper on electric vehicles just yesterday. What that simply means, there are some implications. The first is that countries in Africa and least developed economies would be dumping grounds for vehicles coming in. Of course, there are price impacts. The second and most important point for Nigeria take on this is that we need to process our hydrocarbons. It's so important from the point of view as for those of us who remember the 70s and the cement armada, and I think that Alex was talking about students those days, and the cement armada, we have succeeded, and I want to use it as a model, we have succeeded in turning our limestone to cement. We no longer have ships in Apapa waiting to, with cement, bulk cement, waiting to berth. That's something that in my lifetime has happened. Similarly, we need to approach oil exactly in that same way. An import substitution strategy, backward integration as they call it, so that you process the hydrocarbons here in Nigeria. That's where the benefits come. That's where all the policies on gas, etc., would matter if we develop a gas conversion industry. In other words, turn that gas into industrial goods. We actually do have a national industrial revolution plan. There's a document like that exists, and it's a blueprint on things including oil and gas. So yes, forecasting is essential. Has it been used effectively in the past? My answer is no. But this is the time to make a change. And let me also volunteer one key information. It's that if we all agree that fossil fuel is a pollutant, and we are not flat earthers, we are not saying that the earth is flat and begin to cover our heads like the ostrich and pretend. These are pollutants. We have problems with environmental pollution in the Niger Delta. So obviously, if you agree that cigarettes causes cancer, is carcinogenic and all that, you don't want to subsidize the product. So when we talk about energy from all kinds of energy sources being applicable, there are usually taxing mechanisms that enables you to negate or try and avoid the negative externalities that are associated with certain activities. So in other words, if you are dealing with oil, which is more of a significant pollutant than, say, gas or other sources, there are mechanisms, policies that need to be developed to tackle this particular problem. So we have not done very well in the past with these forecasting, but we need to get serious. The world is moving on, and I think we have the opportunity yet again to put our energy policy in the right shape for tackling energy transition. It's happening. It may not come to us as speedily as it is going to happen in OECD countries. And mark you need to also recognize that these OECD countries, OECD itself and the IEA, they were created as a means to manage energy demand in the 70s, when President Carter declared that this was the moral equivalent of war, when oil prices went up and economies began to... So they have managed that well, and we need to recognize the opportunity we have now to do likewise. And I think this is where our focus needs to be.
I was just wondering, Kira, I'm sorry, I know that we want to get to other guests. When we talk about energy transition and energy mix, I keep hearing about the place and role of gas. But gas exploration, production, doesn't just happen on its own. I mean, we hear of the oil and gas industry. Can you separate oil from gas? I know they're associated gas and so on and so forth. So how does one understand that to say, okay, there's energy transition, gas is part of that. You've also talked about the need for us to further explore gas. But can you explore for gas on its own solo without also the associated issue of crude oil exploration and production?
Well, yeah, I think yes. The simple answer to that is that the predictive tools that we have to determine what is the proportion of oil and gas that exists are not that as accurate. But there are two things involved in there. Whether you find an wholly oil field, etc., the nature of the dynamics of pressure and temperature in the subsurface is that you can either have that gas associated with oil as solution gas. And so when you produce it under a different pressure and temperature condition, the gas wants to come out. So you have to put it through separators, etc. That is inevitable. I hold out some hope because if you look at the new PIA, there are provisions there on the domestic obligation that and a three-tier system, a tier 1 system for that solution gas, associated gas, the tier 2 system that says all the gas cap needs to be utilized for the domestic market, and then the non-associated gas. So we have captured the necessary incentives for people to go out and actually do what they need to do, which is find hydrocarbons and with the domestic obligation, channel that whatever they find or what they currently have into the domestic market, in which case we'll be able to do this gas conversion industries like fertilizer, methanol, etc., etc. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Let's return to Odion once more, and still in line with the domestication of the energy forecast. The OPEC's Secretary General also said that if the necessary investments are not met, in the oil sector, it will have some implication. And he also called for return of investment as a core reason for declaration of cooperation. Now, how far has Nigeria really gone in terms of further investment in the oil sector? And again, to ensure that we domesticate some of these energy forecasts that we are talking about. We can also make reference to the issue of being capable of refining our oil and, of course, indigenizing the entire oil exploration in Nigeria for us to have a maximum benefit from these forecasts.
I think in terms of domesticating the report, from an investment perspective, investment has been lagging in the sector for quite a while. If you recall, the issue of the PIB, now PIA, slowed down significant investments that could have come into the sector. And if you recall President Buhari's speech, when he was signing the PIA into law, he talked about lost investment during the period that the PIB was under consideration. So we've lost a lot of time in terms of, a lot of investments in terms of making investments in the oil and gas sector. That said, there have also been some positives, positive investments, this time by the private sector. So we have Alhaji Aliko Dangote, who is invested or investing in a refinery that will be Africa's largest refinery. You also have the chairman of Boa Group doing investments in that same direction. We have a lot of modular refineries. There's been policies to encourage investments in the midstream sector of the industry, which is where I think we were lagging behind. Previously, we produced oil and gas, and then we shipped it out, and then we brought in white products and other things, gas products as well, including LPG that we used to cook. But now we're seeing a lot of investments going into the midstream, and it's very gratifying to know that the PIA makes provisions recognizes that we need investments in the midstream sector. And the midstream sector is really where the action is, converting that raw material, the feedstock, gas feedstock, oil feedstock, into materials that we can use, into petrochemical industries. If you looked at the forecast, one of the growth trajectories for oil is also petrochemical. So in addition to transportation, based on road transport and aviation, petrochemical industry is also one of the growth of the petrochemical industry will also be one of the drivers of the demand for oil. So it's important that we focused on attracting investments in these areas of our economy and the oil industry, which is the midstream aspect of it. Now, let me just back up a bit. I think the OPEC report is a bit, the report was generated by OPEC, so I think there will be some bit of bias for OPEC on the side of OPEC for oil. If we had other renewable experts who are more positive about renewable energy speak, they might give renewable energy a greater share of energy demand. But let's follow where the money is. The money right now is chasing renewables. Even the IOCs are also chasing renewables. While it's not there's no need to panic, it's also important to realize where the world is shifting to. So today, if you want to do a gas or an oil project in Nigeria, you would struggle for financing. You can't get the financing local. You would have to go offshore to raise financing. And guess what? The multilaterals, the private equity firms, a lot of them are focused more on renewable energy. If you find a field you want to do exploration, you're going to struggle very hard to raise financing to do exploration, to bring that field to production. So it turns out that perhaps whilst OPEC is bullish in terms of where it sees oil, the money is speaking to renewables, at least from where we sit today. We're seeing money chase renewables. If you recall, the vice president even wrote something in the energy in the international media, calling on the world to not to stop funding for natural gas and oil, particularly natural gas. So when you look at where the money is chasing, based from and a lot of this money comes from the OECD nations, it is it looks like they're using investments to now force the world into renewables. So whilst OPEC is bullish in terms of the outlook on oil, I think we also need to be wise and start to look at using our oil resources to develop renewable energy, developing our midstream sector so that we can convert our natural feedstock and then use it for our own internal benefit. And that's where domestication of the report really, really matters. We must be intentional in taking whatever resources that we have from our oil to develop our midstream such that we do not have to depend on OECD countries for our energy needs by 2045.
Okay, thank you very much, Omofoma. You've thrown in the reality check that, well, the money is chasing renewables at this time, and some of the issues you've talked about in terms of financing investments in crude exploration and production are matters I would like Professor Wunmi Eledare to also speak to. Professor Eledare, let's put it broadly. Now, the notion was that the PIA is a game changer, and it's also been praised for creating opportunities for investment in the midstream sector. And here we are, from what Odun Omofoma has again reminded us, big money is chasing renewables, and there's therefore potentially less available big ticket funding for our midstream sector. What does that tell us? And in terms of our policies, in terms of also, if you like, redirection of our chase for appropriate funding and timeliness in energizing our midstream sector?
Thank you very much. I was hoping you would not bring PIA because, but I'll speak to the other issue because the PIA may not be perfect, but it's an excellent beginning. And if you look at, we've done Petroleum Act since 1969, this is 2023, so we cannot throw away the bath water that is dirty with the baby. This is where implementation comes in, looking at this idea of funding, because public perception is very key to be able to attract funding. Now, I understand my friend's concern that this is OPEC's perception. Even the IEA perception is their own perception, and it has to do with energy security. If you look at OPEC presentation and you look at where oil will be coming from to meet the 110 million barrels by 2045, it's all OPEC. The non-OPEC supply outlook is very, very dim because the resources are no longer there. And Dr. Okon alluded to the fact that IEA came into existence when OPEC took control of oil in the 70s. The purpose of IEA is to guarantee energy security. And IEA now foresee the future. And PIA is a signal, if not because of deficient implementation signals that I'm receiving right now. Because if Nigeria with 200 million people is depending on 2 million barrels per day to meet up their energy need for industrialization, and they have 37 billion barrels of oil reserves, something is wrong. So the IEA is foreseeing the turning around of some of these energy source centers, that they may want to be using their energy to improve the quality of life, and there will be nothing left for them. And that's why they are looking for technology to move their energy security away from people that may need their energy to get the type of quality of life. So, it's just like a Tiponi cell. Politics begins local. Energy development is essential for economic development. Producing oil for money is not where PIA wants to go. And that's the investment aspect. People will go to where value can be created for their money. And I want to continue to warn Africa with this energy transition. You must talk the talk but you must walk the talk of energy transition in an efficient manner. The pace cannot be dictated because somebody has money, because we're going to come back to energy poverty. And that's why OPEC Secretary General was trying to say, yes, climate change is there, but energy poverty is there too. And economic poverty is there. And that's where you have the population center. So to me, this is an opportunity. What OECD is doing is about their energy security. What we should be doing is about Nigeria energy security. And this OPEC outlook gives us a window. And that's where the three institutions in PIA is so critical for the future. And listen, I don't want to go into PIA because I become passionate, because one has worked so hard. The board of NNPC, the board of the Upstream Commission, the board of the authority is what the world will be looking at as to whether they want to bring their money to Nigeria. I don't like the signal that I'm seeing. And I'm calling on the Senate, because of what we are talking about, the opportunity to develop our oil is there. And by the way, the money is there as well. Don't let anybody deceive you. Investors will go to where value can be created. And the PIA has given us the opportunity. The implementation strategy is the key, taking advantage of this global outlook for oil. Oil is going nowhere. Put it in writing, because there's no optimal supply energy mix without oil if the global economy will not collapse. See what COVID did. It wasn't predicted. If you allow energy to collapse without oil, we are deceiving ourselves, because oil is not for electricity generation. Oil is for moving goods and services to grow the economy, and the world will still need it. Right now, if you look at the statistics, oil accounts for 59% of transportation globally. Oil accounts for 19% of industrialization. All of these population centers are not fully industrialized yet. India, China are the driving center for industrialization. I don't see why Nigeria cannot be. And that's what Dr. Okun was saying. The midstream is the key for multiplier effect in the global oil and gas outlook. And we have these resources in abundance. We just need to make sure that we move away from prebendalism and resource mindset in using our resources for posterity. This is a good outlook. The assumptions are clear, just like the IEA assumptions were based on electric vehicle. It's an assumption, my friend, not reality. And by the way, it's not about growth, because what we are seeing with renewable is growth, not deliverability. Yes, there may be 25% growth in renewable. Where are they starting from? They currently account for less than 10%, even in the projection up till 2050 in a global sense. It is only in the OECD that you are seeing, that you saw what happened in London, in the UK. You saw what happened in California. You cannot predict where wind will go. We have abundant petroleum resources globally. The world is not running out of oil, and I don't see the world running oil outside the energy supply mix up to 2050. The facts are there. The assumptions may be stochastic. PIA is a good thing that happened to Nigeria, just like the local content. And you could see the implementation of local content adding value. You need a board of directors of these institutions that will tell the executive, you can't do what you are doing because it's not going to add value. If you don't have that type of board, institutional capture will not allow us to get the type of investment we need to develop our oil. I challenge the Senate to not forget all the engagement that led to those formulations. This is the time to act. The board must be effective, efficient, ethical, and equitable. You cannot have a competent executive and have incompetent board. We're not going to talk to where we need to go. Do your job, Senate, for PIA to add value. Do not confirm any incompetent member. The president has done his job, which he has the power to do. You have your job to apply the law to confirm those that are put on those institutions. If the global oil outlook will favor Nigeria, it begins with those three board of directors. The upstream board, the authority board, and the NNPC board. They must be competent to be able to deliver with this optimistic global oil outlook.
All right, Professor Ledere, you mentioned earlier that you didn't think that we were going to raise the issue of a PIA because you're passionate about it, and we have just seen that. You have made your points. I hope that we'll have another day to discuss the issue of adequate implementation of PIA. Thank you very much indeed. Gentlemen, the assumptions of the OPEC is very clear. And there's one thing Barakindo did mention, and that has to do with a holistic view of all the intrinsic perspectives to this conversation that with respect to energy mix. And I'm coming to Engineer Alex Nain here. You may have to also touch on the points raised by other guests, but this is your question. Sanusi Barakindo said, look, additional policy measures supporting faster fuel substitution and penetration of more efficient technology could push global oil demand to below 100 million barrels per day by 2045. What does he mean by that? Is he envisaging that other economic factors or energy factors along the line may actually push oil downwards with respect to the general energy global mix?
Thank you very much for the question. I would say one thing first. That is, Okon spoke, Wumi also spoke, and the other consultant spoke also. In my place here, they say you get good from your house to outside. I think we have always thought, oh, we have to get our money from outside. The people have their own strategy. If they make their strategy, they will work towards it. So when you have oil to produce and they don't want oil, they are doing electric cars and all that, what is the incentive for them to want to fuel what you want to do to achieve your goal? So it goes back to just common sense. We must, as a nation, define what our priorities are. And I've always mentioned, you cannot give what you don't have. First and foremost, this business is a serious business, and the people to guide this business must be sound people in the industry. Wumi has said so much. I don't want to dwell in that. But what the OPEC, they're saying about investment and more technology to get more oil, that one is given. From time to time, they've always been upgrade on how effectively we can produce oil. So that one, nobody can take it away. And that's where technology comes in. The engineers, everybody have to go to the cutting edge level to do things to produce the volume they are talking about. So there's no question of any shortcut about it. And as Nigeria and the OPEC countries, never you sit down and expect you're going to get all the financial support from the people who don't want the type of growth you need. So they are working opposite. They mentioned it in Qatar and everybody, the direction is how do we reduce the price of oil? How do we dwarf income from oil? That's their strategy. So we must develop our own strategy as OPEC or as Nigeria to ensure, one, we have the right people in those places, we have the right trained people to do the job so we can effectively and do the job and save money at all costs. So what we are doing now is everything we are depending on the people who don't want you produce and make what you want to make. They have their own strategy. So as long as we continue to look up to them without looking inward to ourselves and our capability, we'll be in this quagmire for a long time. But like Wumi said, the PIA is there. There are other things. And being in the industry, I think Nigeria has trained a lot of people that if you harness them, you will be able to do better than what the Western world is thinking about. I think our drive now, like I said, I'm passionate about what Nigeria should do to enhance production, reduce the bloating costs, because the costs we are incurring in the industry is outrageous. I've said that for more than 20, 30 years. So these are the things we must tackle as a nation. If we tackle these things right, we will reduce our costs. We have our people engaged. Unemployment will be reduced. We don't have to import anything like fuel, diesel, and all that. These are all past things now. So let us wake up now and say, hey, we have blown the pipe long time ago. We should now go back to the drawing board and do what professionals, what we do best for our respective places where we worked. The manpower is here. It's just the drive. Like Wumi said, if you put people in the board just because you want to satisfy people, that's not going to do the job because they have to control the other end. And you don't do that without knowledge. You need qualified, knowledgeable people in the industry to help these organizations to operate properly. Otherwise, if it is a yo-yo setup, we're going to get a yo-yo game. But I pray that doesn't happen. We have the people. Let us go out and do what we do best. That way, all the universities, the young people coming out of the university, they should be made to face a challenge. It's a challenge for everybody. Let us use our brain, use our knowledge, use the little money we have to develop this country using the available oil resource because we have time on our side. 50 years from now, we're still going to be there. And this gas, oil thing, you can't take one without the other. You find oil, you can find a big oil field. You can also find a big gas field, but whichever way you go, some gas will come out here, some oil will come out there. So our concern now is how do we utilize human resources, the money we have, not all these ones stolen here and there. Let us plunge this thing back there and generate revenue to turn this country around. We still have that chance. I think that is the direction we should go. Let's focus on ourselves. OPEC has given us indications of what the world is. It is now left to us to use that, go back to the drawing board, plan what we should be doing to counter the negative things the Western countries or other countries who want us to go down will do. I think that's the bottom line. If we can do that effectively, go to hell with them. But if we cannot do that effectively, they will keep us under their seat and sit on us. So that is where we should put our energy. We have people, we have money. Anybody that say we don't have money is a joker because I hear billions stolen, brought back, and let's plug all this back into the industry that will bring out the money, that will generate work, labor, everything. Then we will be a stable country. And we'll shame these people who've been taking us for granted over the years. We've seen it over and over. I'm just pleading, let us do the right thing. Use the right people. Use our money effectively. That way, we reduce all the social stress and all the things going on. Because when you have people who go to half-baked school, the universities are not well funded, So let my people go. Some will come out, some will be good. But if we concentrate and turn all these things around, turn out good graduates, use our finance properly, use the people, we are knowledgeable. So we can do well. I don't see any problem. I think what OPEC has done is to tell us, gentlemen, you have this opportunity. It is now left to you to harness this opportunity to do well for yourself. If you refuse to, you won't have any reason to blame anybody because it is now open. I think that's my plea to the country. Most people have spoken, Okon, Wumi, all the things they are saying, they're in line. I think the bottom line is let us be honest as a country, do the needful to achieve our aspiration. It is doable. There's nothing in the oil industry that we cannot do. There is nothing. We have the people outside, inside. They're just sitting down and say, okay, this is what we want to do. How do we get the people? We scout through. Forget about all these. This must be from here. This must be from here. I said, if you're going to play soccer, the 11 people coming into the field to represent Nigeria, if they are from one parent, do it. And let's get it done. So let us go back and do what we do best based on merit and capability, knowledge. I think that's where we're lacking. We have what it takes. We have the money. The government, like all these modular refineries and all those coming up now, nobody knew that could happen. They strangulated the modular refinery financially for a long time. But some of them have bust loose, and they are now contributing to the place. So it means we can do it if we change our mindset and the way we run government. This is not, it's not a joking thing. You cannot give what you don't have. You must give what you have. So when you don't have knowledgeable people handling things and you expect things to work, it will not work. We have gone through this cycle over and over. Let us go back to the drawing board. OPEC has given us a clear card. These are the prediction. You now know your enemy. If you know your enemy, like Zeke said, say, God, take care of my friends. For my enemies, I know them. In this case, we know our enemies. We know those who want to drag us back. They will not give us money. They want to face their direction to make sure the price of oil goes down. So if we know this, what do we do? It's simple. You strategize yourself to beat those odds, and that's all we need to do.
All right.
Thank you.
Engineer Alex Naim, thank you very much there for your comments. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation.
Has the responsibility to help improve the quality and the quantity of the road infrastructure assets, which are the roads and the bridges and the highways. At the moment, we have over 13,000 kilometers of road network under repair, reconstruction, or rehabilitation out of the existing 35,000 kilometers of federal road network. These 13,000 kilometers are comprised in about 850 different contracts which the ministry superintends across Nigeria. We are fulfilling the mandate of our ministry to expand the connectivity of Nigeria's states and by extension the towns and villages through road transport.
Give your kids winning energy. Milo Active Go. With the goodness of malt, milk, and cocoa, helps them make the most of every day. Milo, the energy to go further.
He's falling sick so frequently, either fever or stomachache. I keep him away from junk food.
She also feeds me apples. She says an apple a day keeps...
If you want to keep germs away, then also wash your hands regularly with Dettol soap.
Meaning?
Germs and disease spread through the hand also. For this, use Dettol soap. Dettol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Dettol soap is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Be Dettol sure.
Dear compatriots, our country can be as great as we want.
Let us all commit ourselves to its greatness.
We must be willing to set aside our differences, unite and stay as one.
In our expansive landmass, human and material resources, and plurality lies our strength.
Let our challenges lead us to rediscover our common ground, and together, let's find solutions.
This will take some time, so it requires patience, tolerance, and forgiveness from every one of us.
Let all hands come on deck to protect and transform our country.
Let us unite and see each other not as adversaries, but as brothers and sisters.
Together, we can build a better Nigeria for ourselves and for the next generations.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA, with support from Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
Chelsea will look to bounce back from their loss against the defending champions when they take on Southampton at Stamford Bridge. Will they succeed? Find out this Saturday on the Premier League Live. It's Chelsea versus Southampton, showing on the network service of the NTA from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu, empowered by Integral.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria. We're on the home stretch for the conversation. Let's come back to Dr. Tim Okon. Dr. Tim Okon, the issue of funding has been raised by the other guests against the background of the prevailing bias of the more advanced countries seeking to ramp up availability of renewables. But we do know that oil and gas will remain relevant for us. That's the key point to observe. But how then do we attract investment? How then do we generate investment for this sector? That's one, critical. But far more fundamental, if you will, has to do with the midstream sector, which remains so poorly developed in our environment, but which the PIA is supposed to also act as a leverage to enable us grow that sector. But it's not an overnight thing.
Thank you. I think that this is where the big challenge is. The challenge is that funding institutions, because of their shareholder pressure, etc., are going to be looking critically at whether they fund projects in oil and gas. And this requires a national rethink as to all the monies we earn from selling this crude. And as the former Minister of Budget used to say, you need oil to get out of oil. It is absolutely critical that Nigeria's foreign earnings be used for capital development, because we need to be in a position where we are not hamstrung or tied down because of somebody's decision, external decisions being made by those who have funds. So you need a national effort to redirect our foreign earnings in critical investments in this regard. This is where I say that the forecast has been made. Now we need to incorporate it into our national thinking, the way in which we run the budget, and our commitment, because if you look at NNPC, is the largest equity holder of assets in oil and gas in Nigeria. What the PIA did was to equip it with a basis for which it would be able to function. But it has interest and it has partners. It needs to be able to fund these projects. So we must have a national rethink as to how we direct funds, preferably, of course, funds that are, foreign currency denominated funds, which you can now import the necessary equipment for going to gas and so many other things. The PIA seeks to help this effort by having a midstream fund, which is really for the midstream. But critically, those funds will not be sufficient. And I think the initial proposals was 1%, and then it was reduced to 0.5%, etc. But there must be national effort in redirecting investment into creating the economic opportunities based on utilizing oil and gas resources here at home, even when you may not have counterpart funding. But it's critical for that discussion to take place. And this is all part of what the implementation, etc., and the strategic thinking that is required for Nigeria beyond just passing this legislation. So funding is possible, and I know fully well that those who might not be interested in funding the extraction may be more interested in funding gas projects, etc., because of the credits they can obtain, carbon credit. So there are different options for this, but there has to be national thinking and a strategic review of where our funds should go. It is not in recurrent expenditure and all of these things. It should go to some of these critical sectors to give birth to some of the things that we need to do. The second thing is that the PIA also creates a basis with high oil prices. There is a windfall royalty scheme that enables you to get money into the sovereign wealth fund. So again, it enables you at prices of $80 as we had, I think, yesterday. You should be able to get an additional 3% or so royalty based on price, which should go naturally to the sovereign wealth fund. And this is where some of the investments that we need to do especially in the midstream, to create opportunities for employing our people and basically improve the economic outcomes for this country.
Kieran, I was just wondering, that's a point that I would like Professor Ewumi Eledare to speak to, if you don't mind. Professor Eledare, when we're taking a look at this outlook, oil will remain, demand is going to rise, and therefore will still be in the oil business. Against the backdrop of what we are seeing with the current oil price, $70-something pushing 80, but I'm sure that Nigerians themselves will not be smiling just yet. Yes, in terms of government revenue is there, but we do know that it also has an implication for our consumption of refined petroleum products. At a time when the Naira was strong, we had no issues. When you say that crude oil prices were benchmarked against major currencies, the Naira was $1.50, but we have seen the fate of our Naira. When you now come to gas, utilization, you see the issues that we're having with our thermal power plants, the gas supply agreement, no agreement, pay in Naira, don't pay in Naira. Even with our LPG, domestic cooking gas, the importation cost is also now being added to it to say, oh, it's valued in US dollars versus XYZ. What will all of this mean in the context of our current value of our national currency, and therefore, is this going to be happy news going forward, or we need again a strategic approach to evaluate this two-way traffic?
Well, thank you very much. You see, the economy is interconnected. You have four major sectors in any economy. One is the financial market. Two is the resource market. Three is the labor market. And four is the goods and services market. These four markets are so critical in order to be able to get your economy to the next level. But then, and I'm going to answer your question quickly, then you have what they call the monetary aspect of the economy, and you have the fiscal aspect of the economy, which is tax and spend. The tax and spend are normally with the politicians, but the monetary policy is insulated from politics because money supply is critical to the economy as an instrument. So, but when you don't manage your money supply properly well, then you have the type of problems that we have when every indicator of the economy is going the wrong direction. Unemployment rate is high, interest rate is high, GDP growth is going down, and of course, inflation, which is a cancer to the economy, is also going up. And that's why the money supply component must be removed from politics. And that's what we have not done over the years. We've not been able to get a central bank governor that is independent of the political fray. You cannot control your exchange rate. You cannot control inflation. You cannot control unemployment rate. And the problem compounds. I want to go to PIA again. PIA is a good thing that happened to Nigeria at the right time in terms of economic emancipation. And I do not want us to becloud our judgment with OECD's own predictions. And this is why we need a National Energy Planning Commission. And we have. We have the Energy Commission and we have the Energy Council. Let them be apolitical so that they'll be able to solve some of these problems that we have. Because without energy, the economy cannot strive. And that has been our problem. So we must look at things that should not be political and insulate it. Because it is not political expediency when it comes to the pricing of petroleum products, the pricing of energy, and the pricing of even employees in terms of their wages. Politics must be taken out of that. And that's what we're not doing well. Now we have the opportunities, in my opinion. Quickly, if an economy is going to function and function well in terms of adding value, three important things must be taken care of. One is efficiency. Do the right thing. Do things right. And the second is effectiveness, which means doing the right things. And
Professor Ladere, we'd like to thank you. We'd like to thank you, for your submissions because we are running out of time. You have gone really down neck deep into economic analysis with respect to this conversation. Gentlemen, I hope that we'll have time sometime in the future, really, to delve into the intricacies of this very topic this morning so we can cover all the perspectives, concerning the topic. And there's one thing I'd like us to note, that in that broadcast by Barkindo, he made it very, very clear that the outlook underscores significant uncertainties for the demand and supply of oil. And it was clear, indicating that alternative GDP growth trajectories of some countries will create demand and supply uncertainties. On that note, we'd like to thank all of you for being here this morning for the conversation. First, let's thank Dr. Timothy Okon, petroleum economist and managing partner, Tenor Energy. It's been good sharing from your word of knowledge on this very topic. Thank you indeed for coming. And Odion Omofaman, I hope I'm right there, an energy expert. We'd like to appreciate you this morning for your contributions. And via Zoom from Ghana, we had Professor Wumi Iladere. It will be nice to have you again when such topic is on Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you for reaching us all the way from Ghana for this conversation. And from Warri via Zoom, we had Alex Nain, MD CEO, Gakmok Nigeria Limited. We also thank you for being part of our conversation this morning on Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, so that's it for us on the program today. Thanks for being with us. We are back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, do take care of yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Kirian Umaya. Do have a wonderful day.
NTA, you can't beat the rich.
Did you get to see the way Tell him about the polls this time?
Don't forget to send in your messages.
There's a difference between picking, child, and issue. That is can do more with less people.
If we have a better way of addressing these issues, taking care of...
Congratulations, you were able to sign Timo Werner from RB Leipzig.
So you take water before your workout.
People have used their phone, using TikTok to do this like
Should I go for test?
A lot of people don't even have resources.
I'm Cecil, and this is the Medley Show on NTA.
Fellow compatriots, if no single tribe or religion has defeated poverty, then no single tribe or religion can develop Nigeria. The success story of every state and capital is the contribution of every tribe and religion. Our Nigeria no be wazobia. No majorities or minorities. Every tribe and every religion still dey hustle for naira when no get tribe or religion. So, my country people, let's join this movement that says naira no get tribe and use the naira to develop our naira land. Citizens first. Citizens before state of origin. Citizens before your religion. Citizens before your ethnic belonging. For participation, call 0902 739 5555.
NTA, you can't beat the rich.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Hello and welcome to Thoughts for the Week.
I'm Cordelia Obe, and the idea is to talk about things we usually would talk about. This time using proverbs, wise sayings, fables, you call them any name from around the world. And what are we looking at today? We are looking at being faithful to our friends. Welcome. Now, I have a story to share. It's a fable because I have some animals in it. Many, many years ago, there was a shark who had a monkey as a best friend. Every time the shark would swim to the island where this monkey was, and they'll be happy together. One day the shark said, my friend. As some people would say, my friendship. You don't even know where I live. Won't you come and visit me one day? And the monkey said, okay, why not if not? So it hopped onto the back of the shark, and the shark swam fast and straight towards the middle of the sea. When he got to his own home, all his friends, relatives, and all that were very happy. And the monkey said, why are your family people this happy? Shark said, our king is very sick. And they say we need the heart of the monkey to take care of him. And the monkey was almost fainting. Boy, he was very bold. So he said, my friend, why didn't you tell me what you wanted to do? You didn't trust me enough to tell me. Don't you know that we monkeys, we usually keep our hearts somewhere else? You see that tree you used to meet me? That is where I kept my heart now. And the shark said, He said, just take me back home. Let me collect my heart. I will come back. And the shark, okay. So to the amazement of everybody, the shark turned back and took the monkey back home. Now, our elders say, if God had not been the friend of the faithful ones and made them wise, even in the valley of death, life would have been extinct in the world. So, our monkey got home, got up to the tree, and told the shark that, you are a bad friend. Who told you? My heart is here with me. But thank God I escaped from you. And that was how the monkey got saved. My father told me that story many, many years ago. And I never forgot it. Because he said that every parent should teach the child or their children how to be faithful to their friends. When you are faithful to your friends, somehow, when they try to plot evil or anything bad against you, somehow you have a means of escaping. It may not be the case all the time, but posterity would hold it dear in its heart, knowing that you have been faithful to your friends. That story is a story we should share every time, because every day it seems as if things are getting worse. People don't trust each other anymore. Whose fault? Now, for our thoughts for the week. Are you a good friend? Or are you a friend who is deliberately leading other friends into evil traps just because you want to make your own ends meet? Are you teaching your children to be faithful to their friends, but at the same time to be very, very wise? Think on these things till we meet again next time. Take care of yourselves, my friend. My name is Cordelia Obe. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.